live. We are live. You can send out tweets letting people know. All right, get the reply. Multitask this. Okay, first I want to welcome everybody to the second edition of Divide Talk. If this is your first time, I want to introduce myself. My name is Navarro Wright. I'm the CTO of Interactive One, which is the division of Radio One. I've been involved in technology for about 20 years. And I've really been focused for the past 2 years on bringing this conversation to as many people as possible with the goal of closing the digital divide. The goal of these talks so that we can have dialogue around like-minded people about the challenges, the opportunities, the issues that we think we face in terms of creating the digital opportunity for more of our people. My goal is to have this be free-form conversation, not to be an hour of me talking. So we hope that people send out questions. If you want to send out questions via Twitter, use the hashtag #DivideTalk. If you are on Google+, just put your comments in the event if you were invited. We'll take questions there. I'm going to let our group that's here tonight take a few minutes to introduce themselves as I give them the platform when I find my mouse. And of course, I have to be polite and do the ladies first. Adrian, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Can you hear me?
You can.
Okay, good, because it kept freezing there. I'm Adrienne Graham, CEO and founder of Empower Me Corporation, which is a growth strategies company, and I'm a long-time tech Mac from way back.
Great to have you today. Great to have you. I'll jump over here.
Thank you.
Tina, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Tina Shoulders. I am a designer by trade who runs exposure camps to teach kids how to become content creators.
Great, thank you for being here. Felicia, I'm giving it to you.
I'm the chief popsicle of a popsicle company in Miami by day, and just launched Black Tech Miami recently. So I'm glad to be on the call with you guys.
Great. Hashim, you get the vote for being here first, so I'll let you introduce yourself.
My name is Hashim Warren, journalist by trade. I've had to learn how to use the web to survive. Not because I like it. And also I help out, on occasion I help out TV shows learn how to use the web so they can survive too.
Great to have you here, man. Last but not least, James, you want to introduce yourself?
Definitely, man. First of all, thank you for the invite. Pleasure to be here. My name is James Hicks. I'm a founder and chief technologist for Hicks New Media. And what we do at Hicks New Media is digital consulting, technology consulting and publishing and things of that nature. We run a number of web presences, and we go out and talk about how to utilize the cloud, how to utilize social and new media, and go out and give conferences and talk about those types of things.
Well, great. First of all, thank you guys for being here, everybody who's watching over the internet. And I think, if you look at the panel of people we have here tonight, and I know for a fact there's hundreds of other people we could have on this panel, which is why I want to do this weekly. Let's think about this for a second, right? We have a cross-section of individuals from across the country, all African-American, men and women, who are all involved in technology. So we have, within 5 minutes, broken the stereotype that there are no blacks who are interested in technology in this world, that there are no women who care about the internet, who care about the digital opportunity. And that's really what these conversations are going to be about, right? It's just, how do we break that stereotype and let people understand how to take advantage of this digital opportunity. I wanted to talk today, when I was thinking about various topics, I think one of the things we should talk about is how do we do exactly that? How do we break the stereotype of African Americans, minorities, women in general, and about their ability to take advantage of the digital opportunity and the ability to break the digital divide. I want to reference an article I found today on the Huffington Post that talked about digital divide overlooked. as the party conventions embrace the web. As you all know, the GOP convention is this week. They're calling themselves the Convention Without Walls because they're live streaming on Facebook. They're on YouTube. They have a mobile app, and the Democratic convention is conducting similar outreach. But then at the same time, it talks about how there's 100 million people who don't have access to high-speed internet. And there's multitude of examples. A guy in Philadelphia who is looking for a job who can't afford a computer. People in other cities who their libraries don't have internet access. How do we change that stereotype and change the paradigm to let people know that there are people out here who want to have access to the internet and don't? So, I'm going to throw that out to the group. I want to hear you guys' initial reactions to that.
Well, I think there's two things going on. One is the reality that people often in certain rural areas, in certain poor communities, in certain minority communities that don't have the same access to the web that others do. So, first of all, there's that reality. And I remember a story that I think Baratunde Thurston was telling on his blog, where he said that he was helping out a black woman find this office, and she didn't have like a mobile, a smartphone, and didn't have like Google Maps. And he realized, wait a minute, what would I do if I didn't either know how to use or have this technology to just find something very easily? So it made him realize that there was a whole other world that doesn't have access. I think the second issue is the false thought that people who don't have access either don't want it or won't know how to use it, when what we see is anytime people in maybe a minority group or in a poor community, when they get access, they take it, they use it, they twist it to their own uses, no matter what the original purposes of that service is supposed to be, as we can see in Twitter. So we see that happening everywhere. We just don't see those stories being told, and I think it's up to us to tell those stories.
So, ladies, I want you guys to chime in. What are you guys' thoughts on this? I mean, you guys are all in the digital space. You definitely, I'm sure, have seen the lack of, women representation in general, and more importantly, women of color. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
I personally think it's an exposure issue at the end of the day. Like you guys have said plenty of times, we understand we're using the technology, but we don't really understand how big of an asset that it can be for building businesses and really building wealth in our communities. And it's unfortunate, here in South Florida, we don't have a black tech scene at all. It just really doesn't exist, and I don't think people here really understand the importance of it. What's actually developing here is a huge Hispanic tech scene, and they're starting to brand themselves as the Hispanic Silicon Valley down here, and I think we're unfortunately missing the boat and constantly the last ones at the table.
So I think, I think great points. I'm a big believer, and you guys will, the more you hear from me over these weeks is, a lot of times when we talk about these issues, we get together and we say, the world's holding us back. They're not giving us opportunities. The man is not investing in us, etc. But I try to look at things from both sides, because I think that we have a responsibility at the same time to change this paradigm. If you think about any industry, business where minorities have become prevalent, they've almost had to take their way, right? Whether it's professional sports, anywhere you could think of, the music industry, we had to break down doors. My fear is that people perceive that that's not necessary in tech, and that the status quo is okay, right? There's a small group of people that create products that we use. We love Twitter, we love Facebook, we love Instagram, but no one believes, hey, there should be a company that was started by one of us that has that same kind of prominence, and we're going to do whatever it takes. Learn their ways, learn the proper process to do that. I mean, what are you guys' thoughts around our roles in changing this stereotype?
Well, I can answer that. I'll start off by saying my background is in recruiting in IT. So whenever I hear companies, especially in Silicon Valley, saying we can't find Black techs, we can't find Hispanic techs, we can't find women techs, it irritates me because although I've retired, I have databases full of Black people, Hispanic people, women who are very skilled in technology. So I think first we have to bust the myth that we don't exist, because we do. Number two, I think, as Felicia said, we need to show people examples. You know, when you look at tech companies and you look at people who make these lists, top women to follow on Twitter and top whatever to follow in social media, you hardly see us. That's because I don't think so much of us being held back as much as us not speaking up and saying, hey, we're here. Hey, I'm here. You know, I've been fortunate in that I've had a platform where I get exposure. You know, no, I don't have a tech company, but I deal with a lot of people that do. And I think that as a person in my position who has the connections and who has technology background, I think it's my responsibility, I can't speak for everyone, to bring more awareness, to say, hey, we are here. We exist. You know, Black people exist. Women exist. And I've always been of the mindset, I don't care so much about the argument about it. You know, where are the Black women? Where are the women in tech? I care more about, here we are, we're coming to the table to take our seat. And I think more of us, women and Black people and Hispanics, just like the people down in South Florida, we have to make our own way and then keep it so that we're not segregating ourselves, but integrating ourselves into the tech scene overall. Because I think that once we start putting our foothold in the door, more of us will be taken serious, especially women, and more of us will get the opportunities. I mean, I've seen plenty of opportunities out there. We just have to be more proactive about bringing light to it and getting out there.
Yeah, definitely a level of personal accountability on us.
That's a fantastic point, and Adrian, I just actually put in the chat a list on Pinterest that I have started specifically about minorities in business, right? We definitely need to get that out there. We need to talk about not just the ones that are out there at the Fortune 100 or the Fortune 50, those larger organizations, but the ones that are the grassroots, the ones that are bringing up types of organizations like we are, right? So I definitely want to add all of you to that list because, again, young, affluent African Americans, minorities, right, that are out there looking at. It's not just about Facebook, right? We've got our families that are doing the social thing and they're on Facebook, but how to take that to the next level and start another business, or how to do something hyper-local within your neighborhood and within your community. How to take these services, Instagram, right? You're taking pictures everywhere when you go to an event. How do you turn that into a monetization or into a business? And we can do that by using the tools that we already have today, right? And that we're using every single day.
I agree.
Unfortunately, I don't really...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, yesterday, I'm teaching a social media class, and I went to the open house yesterday. We don't start the class until October, but it was sad to see the number of Black people that walked by my table and said, oh, she's going to teach me about Twitter and Facebook. And I said, did you even look at the description? It's about monetizing your business. It's about maximizing your opportunity and expanding your brand. That is what social media is about. It's not about posting pictures and tweeting and playing on it. And it was so sad to see how many people missed the point, just went over their heads. So it kind of made me reevaluate how I'm going to teach this course, because now, as opposed to just saying, okay, well, I'm going to show businesses how to thrive, now I'm on an added mission to show Black folks, because that's most of the people who showed up yesterday, how it could benefit you, what you're missing out on by not taking part of this, and by having such a narrow focus, thinking it's about posting pictures or sending a tweet about what you're doing. So I think an education component really needs to go out there to the rest of the world.
I have a I wonder if you can speak to this, Navarro. I know you're asking us the questions here, but I feel like there's a deafening silence from the most prominent Black folks in tech. So people who are executives who work at Google, who also serial entrepreneurs, the guy who runs Big Casa, the guy who runs Performable. I don't really see them speak about Black folks in tech. I do see that with women, executives at executives at Google, executives at Facebook, they seem to be out there speaking about, women taking an interest, women having access. But I don't really see that from the top black entrepreneurs and executives. I don't know if I just don't see it, but I wonder what you think about that. Do you see them out there? Do you think they should be out there more?
Yeah. So first, logistical. If you're in the room, it's kind of like the radio. You can't have the video playing; it echoes through to everybody. So yeah, I think there's a multi-pronged answer to that question. So first and foremost, I think going backwards, we have a perception problem, right? And what I mean by that is, Adrian gave examples. We don't perceive that technology is for us as a culture. Like, we perceive that we should use Instagram to show my sneakers, to show my outfits, to show where I was or what party I was at last night. But we don't look at it as, hey, here's an opportunity. I like photos too. I could have built that, right? I do talks with a lot of youth groups, and I usually start off by saying, there was a guy in a college dorm room eating a free meal plan, and with free software, he's now worth more than Puffy, Jay-Z, and Russell Simmons put together. And 90% of the time, if I'm in a group of minority students, they have no idea who I'm talking about. And then when I say, how many of you guys have a Facebook account, the entire room raises their hand, right? That's the core disconnect, right? Is that they don't see the process, or they don't make the connect that, hey, someone built this. Like, someone built this sitting in a room just like they are, just coming up with the idea. The other slide I show is Fast Company did an article about a year and a half ago called the App Apprentices, where they listed 5 teenage kids from ages 13 to 18 who had all built apps that were making at least $60,000 a year for them in the App Store. And I show that picture to those kids, and I say, what's the problem with this picture? That none of them look like you, right? And you read the kids' responses. Hey, you know what? I thought it would be fun to build an app. I've always liked games, so I thought I would build one. But then I bring it back to them and say, what if someone in inner city Chicago built one of these apps and was making $60,000 a year? He's not changing the economic condition of just himself. He's most likely changing the economic condition of his entire family, right? But we haven't communicated that in a way that's hot and sexy, because they hear that from us at a panel you're on or a conference, and they go home and turn on the TV, and they don't see any representative examples of that, right? Our mind focuses on repetition. What we see the most is what we gather in, right? So that's the first half. The second half, I believe, is to your point about not seeing more, right? I think, there definitely are African Americans in tech. We see it here in this panel. I've been at Google. Google has an organization called the Black Googler Network, which is several hundred African American people in Google. There's African Americans who work at Facebook across the board. You're right, they exist. I think the challenge is twofold. I think the first challenge is, specifically in the Valley, race is a really sensitive subject. And I think it's a sensitive subject because no one wants to be labeled a racist, right? And I think because of that, it's really hard for people who work in the Valley to be very vocal about race, right? And what I've tried to say is, look, let's not speak of it from a race standpoint. Let's speak of it from an opportunity standpoint. There are ideas, concepts that never see the light of day that could give value to thousands of people if we exposed more people to tech, right? Like, if we went to Howard and we brought 3 people from Google, 1 VC, and somebody else, and we talked about how the money is transferred, what the process is, that would change the paradigm. So I don't, it's easy to fault those people and say, hey, how do you not speak out more? But I do think it's hard in that ecosystem. I think what we need to do is change the concept of the dialogue. Like, we shouldn't say, hey, you're black, you should be promoting more blacks. We should say, hey, you're a technologist of color. It would be fantastic if I could show other people that you exist, right? Like, and I'll tell you, when I walked in Google, for the CNN special, you know, and they were like Black Google Network. I didn't know that there were 300 plus African Americans that worked at Google, right? And I was fascinated just being in the room, but I didn't come out of there mad. I came out encouraged because I was like, wow, it's not an impossibility, right? So I think we have to frame the conversation the right way, because some people want to frame the conversation just to be the angry Black person, right? They just want to go in and say they're mad. And like I said, they want to say what I'm missing, what opportunities I didn't get. If you frame the dialogue to be solution-oriented and say, hey, if we can introduce the same way, you know, LeBron's introduced and everybody wants to be LeBron, if we can introduce this person at Google who was Google employee 7 and now they're a multimillionaire because of what they learned, you know, it's there. And, you know, I face that challenge too. Like, you know, I've been involved in technology for 20 years, but I know more people follow me or recognize me because I worked at BET, I worked at Radio 1, I worked with Russell Simmons, right? And I don't care about that. However I get you in the room is great, but that's what we're fighting with, right? It's not like you go into the inner city. The kids aren't even rationalizing the thought of learning how to code because it's so far from them, you know. So we do have to hold ourselves a little bit more accountable in terms of pushing people to go back to their cities and show that they can come out of those cities and can get these jobs. You know, I think we got to figure out, but we got to frame the conversation the right way. If you go to those people and say, hey, I'm mad, there's not enough Black people, you should be out there speaking, I mean, quite frankly, I think they're going to shy away from you. But I think if we come up with a solution-oriented scenario, I mean, I've had conversations with those people. They want to see more African Americans in that space just as much as we do. And, you know, they're trying to do little things on the inside. I think the biggest thing that we can do is learn the process and create good companies, right? And that's the next question I'm going to ask is, you know, how do we communicate to people the right way to this space? Because I can give you guys 100 examples of people who are in this space the wrong way. So you know, I'm gonna throw that back out to the group. How do we, you know, get people to understand what it takes to come into this this ecosystem the right way?
Well, I can start that off. The first thing is by getting them educated on basic business fundamentals. Because you have a business idea doesn't mean that you can run a business. That's number one. I've seen people, I did a talk with 100 urban entrepreneurs not too long ago, and these 2 college kids came up to me, and they had a phenomenal tech app. But their mind wasn't focused on business. They didn't know how to do the basic business things. So I think number one, we need to start with basic education, with learning what entrepreneurship is and how to play in the field. Number two, especially with the younger cats, and I'm just going to put it real because I do real talk. With the younger cats, we got to focus on presentation. You can't walk up into a VC office talking about yo dog, yo my man, and I understand keep it real and all of that. I'm from the Bronx, from New York. But there's a time and a place for everything. So we have to impress image upon them. And then number three, we have to figure out a way to get them to articulate the value that they bring to the table and what makes them the right person to start this tech business. And we need role models such as, and I don't know if you guys know Amos Winbush III from CyberSync. Started his business on an iPhone. Nothing else, just an iPhone. You know, and now he's a multi-million-dollar tech business who's getting many awards. So I think if we handle the basic education first and then give them examples of people of color who have achieved success and are giving back, because trust me, Amos he's giving back and he's not up on some perch somewhere being untouchable. We need to marry those, bring it to the community, and show them the right way to get into the space. So that's just my opinion.
Adrian, quick question. I just saw a presentation from these guys who are making this app called Cameo. I was amazed that they don't have a business model, it seems, and it seems that that happens a lot in web tech. And also, these guys were like complaining that it was too early in the morning, and they were wearing T-shirts. Like that seems to be the ethos with web tech. Do you think it needs to be different with Black folks? Do we need to think more about presentation and understand business more? Okay, I mean.
Yeah. No,
Because-
you know what? Because trust me, I understand. I've been a recruiter for 19 years, so I understand the tech environment. But like I would tell my candidates, it doesn't matter if you're going to be coding in jeans and t-shirt. It doesn't matter if you're going to be coding in khakis and you'll never see a client. That first impression is everything. You need to dress to impress the first time. Get in there and show that you're serious. I saw the CNN special, and I have much respect for Wayne Sutton and what he's doing with New Me Academy. I told him that a lot of those kids were unprepared. They were not a good reflection of professionals. So if we can get in there and start with the bare basics and let them know, hey, and this is not just for kids, this is for older, people to adults too. Just because you're in tech doesn't mean you have to fit the tech prototype. Business is first, then you worry about what you look like after you've gotten the pitch done, after you've gotten the money. Always remember the first impression. That's just my opinion. Someone else on the panel could probably add to that or disagree.
I'll say very quickly that the businesses I see started, I have friends who seem to lean towards media businesses. So they start a business that uses the web, and it's a blog that talks about music, or it's a blog that talks about fashion or about something else, and they try to get advertisements. So actually, I do see like dozens of people who have kind of small lifestyle businesses. Mm-hmm. That story is not really told a lot, and also I think that we have enough of that. We need some more of the Instagrams and some of the web tech businesses that are meant to be bigger than just a small time blog. Yeah. So I think the vision needs to be a little different, because everyone is hopping into these kind of smaller media businesses where they're imitating what they see. I'm guessing they're imitating what they see.
Perez Hilton.
BT, right? Perez Hilton, yeah, or BT.com. What yeah, they're doing. And think, wow, that's easy. I can get my friends on. That's what my friends will be interested in. Not realizing that, wow, I'm using Foursquare every day, and I can in 6 months learn how to make a check-in app on Android and get it deployed on Android too. So I think there's a vision problem in terms of what type of businesses can be built.
Yeah, you're right. And here's the funny thing. I sat down and I was talking to some people, and the biggest complaint, and I'm sure you guys of Navarro, I know you've heard it too. When are we going to see the black Mark Zuckerberg? I tripped people out when I said Mark Zuckerberg is the white Omar Wasu. And they didn't understand what the heck I was talking about when I said that. He created Black Planet. I remember, and I'm dating myself, yeah, I'm 43. Black Voices, a lot of us from there went over to Black Planet. Black Planet was the first Facebook, if you really want to be technical about it. Now, Omar's he's a brother. So when people start with that, we need a black Mark Zuckerberg, I'm like, learn your history. Because Mark Zuckerberg was not the first. Omar was the first black person to have, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, but from my knowledge, Omar was out there way before. This was like 99. So we definitely need to shift the perspective and stop looking at it in terms of there aren't enough of us to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, and focus on the ones who are doing those things but not getting the recognition, and support them and bring them up. And I'm going to shut up because this is Navarro's. I don't want to take over.
No, I appreciate it. No, so I think it. I'll respond to a couple of those. So one is you're right, and I'm familiar with the history of Black Planet because I'm in the process of building a new one. So yeah, from a historical standpoint, Black Planet was one of the very first social networks, and for a lot of African Americans, it was really their first experience of being on the web. And from a product and business standpoint, they were at a point they were going head to head with MySpace, feature for feature. They started to lose traction in that battle, and then Facebook came out, and that was really where they started losing. Everyone started jumping to Facebook. I think I have a slightly different take on the whole we need a black Mark Zuckerberg scenario. I think I get why people say it. I think the reality is, that's kind of part of our what's the word? That's kind of part of the thing that holds us back, is that we always believe that we need some single representative person that means that we've succeeded. How about we just succeed, right? The difference is that Mark Zuckerberg wasn't sitting in his room saying, I need to make myself be the next Bill Gates. he was saying, hey, I have this idea and I'm going to code it, right? The reason why people say that a lot is because they're waiting for someone else to jump out of the ranks to point to and say, okay, someone can do it, so now I'm going to do it, right? And really, it's too late at that standpoint. The reality is, excuse me, that any of us can create successful businesses, right? And that the barriers are lower than they were. The challenge is, do you want to do the work, right? People, people want to have, what I call as technology-enabled businesses, because there's very few technology businesses. In my opinion, technology businesses are something when you build the platform from scratch and other people are utilizing it, right? If you build an e-commerce site, that's a technology-enabled business, right? You're enabling commerce through technology. If you build Google, that's a technology company because that's a platform which other people are going to use. But we don't look at that and say, I'm going to do the work. I'm going to learn how to code. I'm going to go read up. Today you can get any information about what VCs are looking for, how to go in the room, how to pitch. It's all available online. Half the VCs are blogging about it, and they're giving you the step-by-step play. But to the point Adrian made earlier, we don't want to do that work, right? We don't want to learn the code. We want to say, hey, you should give me money so that I can get someone else to code my idea, and then you'll see how hot it is, right? Where else does that work, right? If I was going to open up a hair salon, I better know how to do hair, or I'm going to have one client, somebody with jacked up hair who's going to tell everybody else, and I'm going to be out of business. But when it comes to technology, we don't want to do that. And here's the other one, and Hashim spoke on this, and this will piss a lot of people off. Starting a blog is not starting a business, right? Starting a blog is starting a blog. Starting a blog, coming up with a plan to grow users to the point where you can make sustainable money from that, that is a business. And the challenge is, there's too many right now, right? There's too many content blogs. There's too many sites that aren't products. What we need is more products in this space, right? We don't have enough. One of the reasons I started Global Grind because I wanted to build a product. The reason I went to Interactive One is because the opportunity to build Black Planet, which is a product. We don't have enough products. And then lastly, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to create a black product, right? You can be black and create a product, right? People don't go, when the guys built Twitter, they didn't say, hey, we're building this for X, Y, and Z. They said we're building it for whoever's going to use it. We get caught in that trap where we have to build a black something, and then people blame us for, hey, this is just the black version of something else. And especially if you're an independent, you should be looking at a space, seeing what the market opportunity is, and building something to fill that gap. We don't like to do that work. So I think that's the big challenge, right? Is we take the easy way out. I wrote a blog once about what it would take to build an iPhone app, right? If people don't realize right now that iPhones and iPads are the next generation of opportunity and wealth, I don't know what else has to happen, right? But literally, you can go to iTunes and download the class that they teach at Stanford and watch it for free. I could probably do a Google search and find 20 different tutorials that are free. Their software is free, and it costs $99 to get your app in the App Store. But the problem is people don't want to do that work. They want you to build the app so that they can go promote it because there's idea. We got to change that paradigm.
Yeah,
I'd like to
and along with that, I think also just that whole stigma of not working with community, right? Trying to do it ourselves as opposed to reaching out to like-minded folks that are doing similar types of things, right? Everyone wants to do it themselves, own everything 100% of the time, but I mean, right now we've got 8 people on this line right here who have expertise in various different industries or niches. Feed from that knowledge as well, I think, right?
Yeah, and Will, I'm gonna come to you in a second. We call that a lot of things. We call it the crabs in the barrel mentality. We've all experienced that. I call it the, there's only one slot mentality, right? Like we have a concept that there is only one successful slot in the world, and if I am anywhere close to it, I'm not telling you about it because if there's 2 of us, there's only going to be 1 of us. And to your point, and I'll give you guys a great example. When I was running Global Grind, I walked into Facebook, and it was probably one of the most collaborative environments I've seen, right? I walked out just wanting to build something. because you had people in the room who didn't care who created it first, who thought about it, and they were just solving problems, right? They weren't saying, oh, well, if you solve it first, you need to put my name on it so everybody knows that I'm the first person to do it. Like, those are our shackles, right? Those are our generational curses that we have to break, because that no one else is putting that on us, right? The people from Facebook aren't coming in and saying, hey, there's only one spot, you guys got to fight for it. We've created that mentality, and we hold ourselves back. You're absolutely right. You know, in any of these given networks, there's people who have the disparate talents to form a company, right? The challenge is that company won't form because nobody will want to split the equity in an equal way so that the company will get built, right? And those are challenges that we have to fix. Will, I'll jump over to you. Sorry, man.
Yeah, it's all good. I just wanted to make. Can you hear me? First of all.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make a point, and you talked a little bit about people, not wanting to do the work, and all we would all know is half the world knows that technology is, especially mobile technology and web development, is the new gold rush. With the way technology is moving into the future, it's like, we're going to have to be really passionate about what we're chasing, because, you're going to get burnt out really quickly if you're not passionate about what you're trying to develop. And if, in a lot of ways, is we are building businesses, and we are building businesses to make money to be able to sustain those businesses. But if you're doing it solely to make money, then you're going to burn out fairly quickly. Mark Zuckerberg more than likely didn't believe he was going to get rich off this. I mean, he states over and over again, it was never supposed to be a business, but he was passionate about the idea of connecting individuals. Think about Jack Dorsey. I mean, he was doing this, several years before he ever created Twitter, just to figure out, how to connect, paramedics and EMS lines and fire trucks and that sort of thing. So the way I see the world moving is you got to be able to find your lane and stick to your lane and develop, your own individual personhood to be able to figure out what you're passionate about and be able to move towards that thing, because that I think is where you're going to find your most success. If you're doing it for the money, you're going to have a whole lot of roller coasters that may knock you off of it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's probably the first cardinal rule, that if your only desire to become an entrepreneur is to make money, you're going to fail. And you're going to fail because that pathway, we have this other mentality where we only look at the end success, not the goal, right? Let's use the entertainers, for example. We all look at Puffy and we like, he's got it great, like he's doing it, right? He's got all the money in the bank. But people don't realize that the dude hid in the bathroom on Amtrak trains for 6 months so that he could get back to his internship between Howard and New York City, right? People don't think about those aspects. They're like Jay-Z, he's the greatest rapper of all time. People don't recognize that he memorized the dictionary, right? Yeah. He memorized the dictionary so that he would have a grasp of words unlike any other, because he was that hungry, right? Nobody said to him, memorize the dictionary, you're going to be the greatest rapper of all time. He wanted to be excellent. He sat there and memorized the dictionary. We don't have enough people who are willing to do it based on that, right? And I get that, and that's because we're late adopters, right? We see the Jack Dorseys who built Twitter and then build Square, and they're all around, and even those guys, there's work involved to how they got there, right? But the problem is we got to focus on what we're passionate about, right? Yeah. We got to focus on, a problem that we really want to solve, because reality, anyone who's been an entrepreneur realizes that there's going to be a multitude of people who tell you no, and tell you that you shouldn't do what you're doing in the first place, and you have to determine whether that no is a point for you to rethink your approach, or whether that no was just somebody trying to hold you back. It was interesting, and I just thought back to this, that when I launched Global Grind, 90% of the responses and interaction that I received from other black people were negative. Like, oh, this is trash, oh, you're just with Russell, this, that, and the other. And it had nothing to do with me, to be honest with you, because half those people didn't know me. It was that one slot scenario. They was like, he got a slot, so I'm not going to get that slot. And we have to figure out a way to change that paradigm and understand what it takes. Like, if you're going to be in the technology business, like, I love technology, so it's not work for me to be technology. There's multitudes of people out here who love something right? And my thing is, I like to tell them that find that thing you love, and then figure out how technology can help you accelerate that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's the beauty of it. That there's, you know, the highest level is building the next Twitter, right? The other level is building an app that a couple thousand people can use. I mean, listen, if a couple thousand people use something and you're charging $10, $15 a month, that's a company. That's a business. There's people around here who have businesses you've never heard of who are at that level, who are sustaining, who are employing people, who are creating an environment where people can flourish, you know, and you may never hear about them. We got to understand the levels of it, right? If we think that the only thing that we need to do is build the next Twitter, then we're sorely missing out on the opportunities in between.
I have to I think that the issue is that black folks are building different types of businesses and don't realize the opportunity to build web tech. I haven't seen that people aren't willing to do the work to build it or learn how to code. I think about one of my best friends. He just started a real estate company, hired people, got to offices, did an incredible amount of work, actually put an incredible amount of money, taking a lot of risk. But I don't think that he realizes that with the 3 years that he took to build that, in 6 months he could have built, you know, an app that helps people find real estate. You know what I mean? So he put his resources into where he's seen his friends work, he's seen his coworkers work, and not into what might be a much bigger opportunity. So I don't think that it's a matter of not being willing to do the work. I don't think there's exposure, and I don't think there's the story being told that you can do this other type of work that might have a, you know, much bigger upside.
I actually think that our community creates a lot of the same businesses. You see a lot of people going into barbershops and lawn care service and hair salons. Like, there's not a lot of creativity in our business, in our community. I think that's a big problem.
I agree.
I like to, you know, say something, and I was talking to my wife about this the other day. It's because, and this kind of touches on that a little bit. A lot of times we don't really find out who we are until we're about 30 years old. You know, I'm 32. I just turned 32 a little while ago, and you know, you're chasing what is cool. You know, when you're a teenager and you're, you know, young, mid-20s, and whatever your friends are doing, whatever is popular at the moment, that thing you want to replicate. And we really don't get comfortable with showing the public that we're into different things until we somewhere around, you know, most of the time hit 30. And some people never do. You know, so we may have that, you know, guilty pleasure, that thing that we love to talk about. You know, for me, I like tea. You know, I like green tea, I like black tea. You know, I probably would have never told anybody that had I been like 22 years old growing up, you know, in an urban environment. So, you know, a lot of times we chase things that are popular because that's all we're comfortable with letting people know about us. You know, so as we get older, sadly, as we get older, you know, some people never, but, you know, we have this fear of being different, you know, and it goes back to a lot of those issues that we've dealt with historically. But, you know, until we are okay with being different, you know, I think we will continue to see repeat and, you know, duplicate businesses.
So I hear you, and I'm figuring out how to. So on the one hand, I hear you. I agree that it's a process. But on the other hand, what people have to understand is that right now we're losing, right? We're losing at such a scale that we don't have time to rest on our own excuses, right? I mean, we have so much baggage, we have so many issues holding us back from being able to have open, intelligent dialogue, from being able to collaborate, right? That's a large portion of why we're losing. You know, and I think to me, it's to your point. So I think for our young people, it's lack of exposure, that their mind, you know, I always talk about, you know, the perspective, and I'll show a picture of you know, an ocean sunset, and I say that is mainstream, specifically in the technology world. That's their perspective. They pretty much know if they're a Google search away from solving any problem, right? They know, I call myself the mobile MacGyver. Like, as long as I have my phone, I can pretty much solve any problem you have by finding something on my phone, right? So that's their perspective. So with that perspective comes a confidence, a lack of fear of failing, because they know the levels of opportunities around there. And then the next slide I'll show is most minorities' perspective, which will have black on both sides and have a narrow view of that same landscape, right? And the problem with that perspective is that opportunities can be to your left or right, can be inches away from you, and you just can't see them because you have blinders on to what's right in front of you at that exact point. That's the mentality that we have to break, right? And we have to break it at multiple levels, because the first part is, to your point, right? Because we have a narrow perspective, we're insecure. Because we're insecure, we're filled with anxiety and fear. So because of that, we're fear of being open because we haven't seen what's around that curve. So we're afraid of what's going to expose us to. So to your point, we stay narrow and shut in. And even when an opportunity comes to meet us, we push it away because that means exposing ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We got to change that in ourselves and give other people examples. We're not going to have young people be the next generation of entrepreneurs, technically savvy opportunists, if we don't give them examples. But we can't give them examples because we're still caught up in our own limited perspectives, right? We think that because we know technology and that we're a little better off than they are, that we've cleared that perspective problem, and we haven't, right? You guys have known it. You guys go in dialogues with people and you don't solve those problems, and you're like, wow, I can't understand why we can't just collect. Like, those are the issues that we have to break. And it all comes down to us as a people to stop feeling ourselves. And what I mean by that is we hold on to accomplishments like they're nuggets of gold that we want to show everybody else that we have, right? As opposed to recognizing that an accomplishment is literally just another stepping stone in the evolution of you as an individual, and that the moment you get it, you need to look at it, appreciate it for what it is, and what it's teaching you about what's next, as opposed to holding it so tight that you can't understand that was really an opportunity for you to share with that person to give them a different perspective. We have to change that about ourselves, and once we do that, then you'll have more examples of collaborative situations, successful situations that other people can point to and say, "Hey, yeah, maybe I can do that." So I agree. I feel with you, but I just think we got to move faster. We got to move faster.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree that it's seeing a broader landscape problem. I think that's a powerful story. The fact that that you can find the answer to your, where you're going to go or how to code this product problem through Google. But most black millionaires who are entrepreneurs made their money through franchises. So they buy a franchise, and this is the way that they see it. This is the way that they tell their friends. This is the way that they tell their kids. It's a very limited way to make money. But when you read Black Enterprise, often the person that they're profiling has some of a smaller business, smaller and local, or they own franchises. So this is a real big story problem. And some of that I think is about safety and how risk averse that black folks are, which may be because maybe that one entrepreneur is also taking care of their family. Maybe some other entrepreneurs who take more risk, they're being taken care of by their family. That might be a story out there. But I think there's a lot of hard work going on. I think there's a lot of innovation, but it's in the same places. It's in the local businesses, it's in franchises, and it's not in this more risky but higher reward world of web tech.
I really think we need to. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I really think we really need to simplify, show people how simple it is to, one, start a business and then also get into tech. I think that a lot of the conversation puts it at such a high level that it really seems inaccessible to a lot of people. You know, I work with kids. We started a program called Poppreneurs. The main reason we started is kids, they either like, hey, I'm either going to sell drugs or I'm going to get a job. Like, entrepreneurship is never a part of the equation. And I tell people all the time, I joke, I'm like, if kids want to sell drugs, they don't need to write a business plan, right? And you think about it, they even get a mentor the same day, show them the ropes, and they start making money. And it's a simple process that makes complete sense. And that's why a lot of our kids go that direction. What's hard is sitting in, you know, an entrepreneurship program or for 6 weeks or 8 weeks and writing a business plan and doing the mundane stuff and not actually ever seeing their idea turn into anything. So I think even with adults and this whole tech conversation, we have to make and show them how simple it is to step into the process.
I agree with Felicia, because there's a lot of people. I have a course out, and I'm not plugging it, but it is a step-by-step to launch a business. And it's a lot of people, a lot of the Black people who saw the course said, I don't have time to take 16 weeks to write a business plan. I don't have time. I don't know if this is going to work. But what I did differently with it was I structured the course so that they're bringing their business and their idea into the course so that at the end of the 16 weeks, they're launching their actual business. There aren't many places that are teaching people how to do that. They're giving them theory. They're giving them textbook theory, like Felicia said, and how to write a business plan, but they're not actually showing them, okay, let's see the evolution of your business step by step, each week, each phase, to see how it's going to be launched. And we need more programs like that. And I think that it starts in the local communities. If we could get entrepreneurs who will dedicate their time to coming in and creating classes like that in that similar format and helping them kind of cultivate or incubate their ideas, I think we'll get a lot more people who will be willing, or kids also, who are willing to say, okay, let's do this, I want to start a business. And the beauty of it is they'll be learning the basics along the way. So when they're kind of the training wheels are taken off, they'll be able to start their businesses the smart way. So I think Felicia, you're absolutely onto something.
I mean, look at the world that we live in. You know, we're in an instant gratification world. We're in 140 characters. So when starting a business, people need those small victories. They need to say, like, all right, if I do this, I'm going to make money. Like, and let's move away from the business plan and go to actually, like, let's make a product. You make your first dollar first before you incorporate. Like, let's go online and build an app. Like, let's download Code Academy and start coding today. And then I think it'll make more sense to a lot of people.
Right. Or even the thing, I don't know if you guys watched Techstars, where I was really upset with the fact that one company decided they didn't get funding, but they spent their summer getting paying clients, getting paying customers. And people put so much high emphasis, especially in tech, of getting the funding, chasing the dollars, getting somebody to invest, instead of worrying about getting people who are going to use your minimum viable product, get it off the ground, get some revenue going, then show your track record and get money. So I think a lot of us stay out of the tech scene because we feel, oh, no VC is going to give us money. But if you do it the smart way, if you worry about, you know, building the product, getting customers, and building revenue, the money will flow. And I think that's a disconnect for us. And I don't know, Navarro, what do you think?
Yeah, so first I'm going to make a confession. I tried to use the Hangout lower third and it came up backwards. So like I said, I was going to mess it up.
But it's only backwards to you.
Yeah,
so
it's backwards.
Is that what it is? I see. I got caught up in fear, and I wouldn't do that.
There you go. It's right. It's right.
So yeah, I think so. You guys all bring up good points. I think the thing people miss is people believe you should get funded first, and they'll build a product. When any of these technology businesses, like if you watch Techstars, if you watch Y Combinator, if you watch Dream at any of these places, when you go to their demo day, they're demoing products. They're not demoing, and most of them are demoing products that they've had people use and they've had people interact with. Again, that's our fundamental flaw, because we don't want to learn how to code, or we don't take the time to code. We don't have anything to show, so we go to see investors. Investors won't invest, and then we blame it on the fact that we're black. It's not just that you're black, right? Now, being a minority has challenges, and that's more because they're exposed to so few of us it's a culture shock. But at the end of the day, if you have a product that already has thousands of users and engaged, they're not going to not. There's very few investors. I'm not going to say none because there's racist people everywhere. There's very few investors that will not invest in you for the sole purpose that you're black, right? But think about it, right? I call it statistical racism. You walk into an investor, you don't have a product. So statistically speaking, if you don't have a product, I can't justify my risk. You're an African American. Statistically speaking, there's so few African Americans in the technology space. I can't point to 5 others that have taken their companies to exit, profitability, et cetera, in this space to go with you. And lastly, because of that, you've never done it before. So all those statistics basically stack against you. So it's not, they can use the statistics to say, look, I would love to help you, but these things stack against you. We don't see that and change that, right? So I think that's what we need to look at. The other thing is understanding financing, right? People think that the magic way is that I come up with an idea, someone invests in it, and then I go build it. What they don't understand is when they're investing, they're taking a percentage of your company, right? And it's a scale. The more you've accomplished, the less they can take. The less you've accomplished, the more they can take. So if all you have is a PowerPoint deck and some notes, they may invest, but they're going to take majority stake in your company, and then you're not an owner, you're an employee. And that defeats the whole purpose of entrepreneurship in the first place. What people don't understand, when Mark Zuckerberg received his VC investment, he showed phenomenal growth in his product. It was a continuing hockey stick moment. So that's why he was able to go in and not only get investment money, but get them to cut him a check and his other founders a check to start. And that's why to this day, he maintains majority stake in his company. He's a smart guy, he's a talented guy, but they can't fire him. They cannot fire him. So it doesn't matter what he does, he can't get fired. And that was the best advice he got. But he was able to do that because he had gotten his company to a point where he had leverage. Adrian, thank you for the word. I was looking for it. He had leverage. People don't have leverage, and then they get mad that that lack of leverage doesn't move them forward because they're not willing to do the work. So, and I hear you, Hashim, in terms of you saying there's people building the same type of products, but to me that kind of goes under not wanting to do the work. If you see that there's 100 other people in that space, and you think that, because of the 100 other people in space, you at 101 is going to create something unique enough to pass all those 100 people, you're not doing the work because you're not looking at the market and saying the market's saturated and it's 10 times harder for me to come into that market to be successful versus looking at a market, an idea that has growth potential that no one solved that problem and allow you to create your marketplace or a niche, right? And it's a follow-on mentality. So, I think you guys are right in terms of we got the process backwards, and it's easier to learn to code today, and not even learn to code. Let me take a step back. So even if you're never going to be the physical person who develops your product, you need to understand the environment. You need to understand why to use platform A versus platform B. You need to understand if you create a Facebook page, what does that mean to your business, etc. Because if you don't understand that, how can you run your business? If I'm a technology savvy person and you're not, how do you know that I'm doing the best work for you? How do you know the code is clean? I've met several people who get money, right? They're able to get money from family, friends, or they have money, and they hire coders to build something, and it's terrible. It's terrible because they don't know what to tell them to build. So, it's that part of that exposure. Now, I say all that to say people don't know. A lot of people just don't know, right? It's not that they don't refuse to do it. They just don't know because they don't know where to look. So, we have to figure out ways to get it to another level. You guys made a point a few minutes ago about making it simple, right? The other thing that, going with that one slot mentality is we like to black box things. We like to make it so that If I know something, I'm going to make it sound really complicated to you so that you have to keep coming back to me, because that's how I keep my place of comfort. Remember what I said before, anxiety and fear. Like, those are the driving forces. So, but what you realize, if you look at specifically the tech space, that's why they're open and sharing, because they're confident in their skills and ability. They don't mind helping you because it doesn't detract from what they're doing, right? We have to cross that hurdle.
But Navarro, how long do we use the excuse or accept the excuse of people don't know? You know, like, it's, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of at that point where you understand how to get on Twitter and create a Facebook page, but I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of a weird space for me to, like, when is enough enough? No,
I agree. I think we're already past the point of people just not knowing, right? The hard part is that they don't know, right? And what we need to have happen is, more and more we're seeing it, that people are starting to understand what it takes to be successful in this industry and the work, right? You guys brought up the new Me Accelerator. I think, they've had, I think they're on class 3 now, and they've had, in the second class, they had someone get $1 million worth of funding. I think I just read somewhere else that someone else from that class got $500,000 worth of funding. So it's an evolutionary process. But I even said back when Angela started that program is great for the small group of us who have been able to get an understanding of knowledge to get to that point and just need that extra bit of exposure. That there needs to be another program that makes you understand why you need it in the first place, right? I mean, there's the problem we have is that a large group of us don't understand why they need it in the first place. It just doesn't resonate in their mind. And that's the hard part, right? Because there's more people on that side of the fence than there is on the other side of the fence, right? And then in the other side of the fence, they have all those other hang-ups we talked about earlier. So that's why it's such a narrow bandwidth of people who are being involved. I really think, success breeds more success. We got to have more people committed to really being successful, to have those visual examples. And that's, and it's not easy, right? Specifically around entrepreneurship, if entrepreneurship was easy, everybody would be one. It's not easy. But my point is, when you look at you look at where we are right now as a people, right? African American unemployment is higher than any other demographic group and hasn't gone down versus like maybe 1 percentage point in the last 2 years, right? My thing is, you're out of work for 6 months. Why not learn how to code, right? No one's hiring you. Why not work to incremental steps to creating a company so you can hire yourself? Is that me? Is that somebody else? I don't know what that is.
It's not me.
All right, we want high tech. We got theme music. That's not me though. Yeah, that's definitely not me. Is that you, Hakeem? I'm gonna mute you guys.
Mike Benson. The gavel has not yet sounded. The RNC Paul Ryan is just wrapping up his speech right now, but the after party begins here at HuffPost Live. I'm Jacob Soborov, alongside my colleagues Janet Varney and Alona Minkowski. We're also joined.
I take credit. Sorry about that. All right. So, I think that's where we are. Well, that just proves to people that this is live. So, that I think that's where we are. I think, as we continue these dialogues, you're right. We got to get tactical. We got to say, how do we, and I think that's a good jump off for next week conversation is how do we get technology as part of our educational process, right? Because that fear and anxiety is bred over years of kids being in school and not touching technology and not being comfortable with it. And then, they get to college and this is the first time that they've touched technology and they're sitting next to a kid who's been on a laptop since he was 5, right? So, and even now, right? I mean, with the iPad generation, I mean, younger and younger kids in mainstream areas are touching technology and have no fear of it. So, I think, the leading question that we'll do next week is how do we change that paradigm? How do we introduce technology at an early enough age so that there's comfort to it? Because I do believe that comfort breeds a different type of thought process around your ideas, right? Because if you're comfortable with technology, when you look at a problem, you think of it from a technology bent, right? If you don't, someone says, hey, solve that problem, and then you're scrambling like, well, what does that mean? How do I figure it out? Those two skill sets have to come together. If I'm comfortable in technology and I think of everything from a technology bent, I see a problem and say, hey, there may be a service to solve that, so I go find it, right? So that's the first level. So I'm solving my problems at a faster pace. The second level is I look at a technology bent, and if I find that no one else is solving it in the way that I want it to be solved, I know it can be built, and then I go along that process, right? We don't have that, so we struggle along doing things in a manual way while other people are accelerating past us using technology, right? One scenario I always give is there could be a flower shop in the inner city and a flower shop in the suburbs. The flower shop in the inner city is in walking distance to everyone. It's the most convenient. They both carry the same products, but the flower shop in the suburbs found Shopify and knows for $20 a month they can throw up an e-commerce site and sell to anybody and deliver it there, so they're selling out faster. They found out about Square, so they're able to do little virtual market things in different places and sell the stuff that's about to go bad and swipe credit cards immediately, right? So just by those two things, they've leapt past that flower shop that's been there longer, has the same product, has a better location. That's where the equalizing effect happens, because technology, it really is the great equalizer. So I think we need to figure out, and I think that's a good place to start, right? So the first 2 weeks we've talked about entrepreneurship and business and finance. I think next week we need to go back the other way, is how do we introduce technology earlier in education, on the teacher side and the student side, so that we can create an ecosystem, because that's really the goal of this project, is to create an ecosystem so that people are coming up new with ideas, people are in the ecosystem. I mean, any established thing that's flourishing is because it has an ecosystem. There's already a process that you can flow through. We don't have that process, then we got to build it. So before we head off, I think I want to give everybody who's on a chance to kind of give any closing remarks. So again, I'll start with the ladies, but I'll try to remember my order and switch the order. Yep, I'll go to Tina first.
Well, I think part of my only comment really is that we have to show up. We keep talking about there's this big divide and we're looking for somebody else as an example. I go to a ton of tech meetups out here, and I'm never looking for a specific black person to be the model, although I'm excited when I do see one. I'm just looking for us to actually be there, be in the space, be in the place. Like, the best way to learn from examples are people that are actually doing it. And if they don't happen to look like us, we need to be in the space so that we can see what they're doing, get to know each other. And a lot of times, like you had alluded to earlier, it's not so much that someone's not going to bring you to the table because you're black, but they're a lot more apt to introduce you to people if they know you. And we have to become familiar with the people that are in the space, that are VCs, that are doing things, talking to people at Tumblr, Google, and just becoming a part of the conversation, becoming a part of the network, and learning from there.
Great. Adrienne?
I agree absolutely with what she said. Everything plus 100 on those comments. And also, I would say focus on learning the basics. Everybody wants to rush to the big app gold mine and all of this. And like you said about, having other people code for you, step back, take a step back, learn the basic stuff first, learn how to code, learn the business side of it, get educated so that way when you do get to the table, you'll have something to bring to the table. So that's my closing remark.
Great. Felicia?
Yeah, I just feel like a lot of times we're the most pessimistic people because other people have told us that we should be, and I'm definitely enjoying this conversation, but I want to hear solutions. Like, I want to talk about how do we move forward, how do we get out of the problem instead of so much focusing on the problem. Like, that's where I am right now, and that's where I think a lot of us should be. We're all here, we're already in it, and definitely let's focus on developing this space and then figuring out how we can move forward with the people that have no clue how to even take that leap.
M. Cole, you've been quiet. Anything you want to add before we head out of here?
Well, yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I thought that I would sit back and listen and observe. I'm always talking, so I just wanted to listen. But this conversation was very exciting and enlightening for me. But I like to touch on 2 points. One point that Adrian mentioned about the fundamentals. I think the fundamentals are key. Even looking at how I grew up, I was immediately thrown into leadership positions and was in charge of X, Y, and Z. But I really liked the fundamentals. And as I got older, me not having those fundamentals of just how to be efficient and effective caught up with me. I had great work ethic, but just those key fundamentals I struggled with. So I think being able to zero in on those fundamentals are very key. My second point is the application. I really like what Felicia was talking about solutions, and I think with our young people and even for ourselves, in the startup space or in the entrepreneur space, being able to, okay, we have these ideas, we have these suggestions, but being able to actually put them into motion and apply them is key. Because if we don't ever actually, put the application to the test, then we're going to just continue to have conversations and nothing more.
Great. So, Hashim, for being the first, you get to be the last of the panelists to give comments. I always give credit for the early adopters.
Right. I think there's a million untold stories of Black entrepreneurs who are trying to be innovative, trying to work hard, but perhaps not seeing the opportunity that there is in web tech. So I hope that part of the strategy for people who want to close the divide can be to intercept that personal trainer who's opening up his own studio and say, hey, why don't you make a personal training app? Or that real estate person who's opening up his own office and spending a lot of money on it, hey, why don't you create an app that helps people find real estate? So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to gather that 0.5% of people who already have an entrepreneurial mind and let them know the opportunity that they can have with web technology.
So first, I want to thank everybody who was on the online panel tonight. I appreciate you guys' thoughts, your insights, your time. I think everything we talked about tonight really speaks to why I got the divine thought, and it was a divine thought because I was coming from church when I got it, to create the Close the Divide project, because everything people said here is true. And I believe exposure and understanding and opportunity comes from sharing that knowledge. And the whole concept of the 10,000 is that if each one of us if I touch 10,000 people, then if each one of those 10,000 people touch another 10,000 people, we have what's called exponential growth. And we start to see the solutions that Felicia was talking about. We start to see, people coming up to the programs like Adrian was talking about. And we'll see that change, right? It has to be incremental. It has to be a movement. I appreciate the opportunity to help guide that movement as best that I can. And I say this with all honesty and earnestly, is that my goal is to try and serve as a facilitator to get these stories out. Hashim made a great point. There's thousands of stories. One of the things that I want to do on the site is give people the opportunity to tell their stories using social media, create a resource guide that people, if I'm in a certain industry, I can click and see 20 different services that I didn't know about that would make my life easier, my job easier. But to be honest, it's not going to be able to happen just with me. It's going to have to be a collective group of people saying, I'm going to add my incremental piece to build enlightenment for other people, and I'm going to be willing to be open. So I ask people who are watching this, we appreciate you watching it. We appreciate you tuning in. That everything that became something started from nothing. So everyone tell one person to say, hey, you should start coming on Divide Talk and giving your opinion. You should ask a question. You should start telling a friend about it. And you'll realize, like anything else, whether it's a business, whether it's a learning opportunity, that when you look back a couple months later, it has grown into something and you had never realized that it could grow that big. But the beauty is you have to start. Right? And what I wanted to show is that you have to start. It doesn't have to be pretty. We're all sitting on laptops, not in studios, etc., but it has to start. And once it starts, it's going to keep growing and starting and being something special. So we hope that everybody continues to stay along for the ride, and each week you bring someone else with you so that we can share information. So a couple logistical things. I definitely want to encourage people who are watching and not on the panel to submit questions, submit possible topics for future conversations. You can always do that at the hashtag Divide Talk or the hashtag Close the Divide. You can follow me on Twitter at Navarro Wright. I encourage you to go to closethedivide4.me and sign up for the movement. My goal is to have that site live before the next Divide Talk, so I put it out there, so I got to hold myself accountable. And again, just tell people about what we're trying to do. Tell people the conversation we had here today. Take the YouTube video and show it to other people. Create what I like to call light bulb moments. Is once you take someone who didn't have an understanding of an opportunity and you show them an opportunity, it creates a light bulb moment, and they can't go back. They can't go back to thinking that, hey, I don't know how to get out of this, or hey, I don't know that there's a window of opportunity. And as you see from this panel, it's not just me. I'm not that great, not that special. There's thousands of people out here who understand the digital opportunity, who want to share the digital opportunity, and want to make a big difference. So with that, we're going to close. I want to thank you guys for spending the time, and we'll see you next week. God bless everybody.
All right, take care.